maybe don't be harsh to yourself all the time. That's maybe the most important thing you should think about, and yeah, then you're on the right way.
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the TAKAGAI family. If you're new to this channel, my name is Taka, and through this platform, I encourage college students to cultivate a positive growth mindset alongside with guest speakers who come from all walks of life. And today, as always, I'm very happy to have Julian Färber join us from Freiburg, Germany. He's currently working as a HR talent acquisition operations associate at Pfizer. As I'm sure you've all heard, they're one of the largest pharmaceutical companies in the world. And it's very inspiring to see a friend contributing from a people operations perspective and helping society overcome this serious COVID pandemic. So without further ado, Julian, it's a pleasure for you to be here. Thank you and welcome.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Taka. It's yeah, I feel flattered. It's a pleasure to be here and yeah, be talking a bit about the HR role and what you mentioned. Yeah, let's see if it's interesting stuff for you guys.
Perfect. Yep. And just to give everyone a quick agenda in terms of the topics we're covering, we'll be covering things such as how Julian ended up pursuing a career in HR, the role in which the human resource department, what kind of role they play in typical organizations, what they look for when screening for CVs. I think this is one thing that a lot of candidates are definitely interested in. And finally, some advice from Julian himself, someone who's been working extensively in this field for some time for you guys, college students who are out there. So without further ado, let's get right into it, Julian. So the first question really is, you studied social sciences at University of Cologne with a minor in business administration. And then after that, you moved to the Netherlands in Tilburg University, and you decided to pursue a master's in human resource management. So what was going on in your head? Why did you end up making this decision?
Yeah, so first of all, I started, as you said, at the University of Cologne, which was a mixture of yeah, sociology and also the business economics field.
Mm,
But my decision to study that was already that I wanted to go into the area of economic psychology.
sure.
But unfortunately, I didn't have the grades for it.
Okay.
So I chose that studies at the university, which was a very good decision in the end. I could already have yeah, minor courses in HR and economic psychology. So yeah, I like that a lot. So in that time, had my first side jobs as a student in the fields of recruiting.
Mm,
And yeah, I was more sure after yeah, the digging more deeply into the fields of HR in university to do it not only in the bachelor but also to specialize later on with a master's degree
sure.
in the Netherlands. So after internships in HR, in employer branding, and in talent management, I went to Tilburg, studying the HR master's degree, which
Yeah.
was also a decision to go abroad because of the international focus,
Hmm.
and yeah, just to specialize more in the interesting field of HR.
Sounds good. That's very interesting and how you chose the career in HR. And I want to touch on the fact that you mentioned you wanted to sort of branch out from Germany and you ended up deciding to move to Netherlands. And I think in general, talking to you for quite some time, you're very open-minded to new experiences, new cultures, and going to new countries. We even met in Bangkok. What makes you so open-minded and being open to meeting different people and in such a new environment?
I think this is it's very important to do yeah, to have an international focus and be open-minded for other ways of thinking, for
Hmm.
backgrounds, because yeah, people from, I mean, you probably know it yourself. yeah, if you are in growing up in an international field
Yeah,
like you already have that mindset. But if you just grow up in your country,
sure.
you start at university, you start to get in touch with yeah, with other people from other countries, and I think this is something very enhancing, uh,
Yeah,
because you know it from Japan, for example. You have different ways of thinking, for example, as yeah, as in the US, or as in Germany. So it's quite enhancing.
mm,
And yeah, it's to maybe to try to think outside of your cultural box. Um,
sure.
and as well, the world is getting more and more international and global. So I think developing that and having the experience to be abroad, probably alone, and you have to, yeah, contact other people. And this is something very enriching, and yeah, it grows your personality.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah, I agree. And every time I go to a new country, I meet new people like yourself. When, by the way,
Yeah.
for the audience out there, Julian and I met the day he actually saved my life. So it was, yeah, he shouted Achtung, which means be careful in German. As I was about to, we were both on the way home from work, and I was about to cross a bike lane, which I wasn't being careful of. And he shouted for me, which then allowed me to sort of freeze and stop. And then the bike basically whizzed by, and I was millimeters close to getting hit. So, first of all, I want to take this opportunity to thank you again. um, but exactly, like Julianne mentioned, I've met so many different people from different cultures every time I go somewhere alone into a new environment, and every time that happens, it's allowed me to, like you said, enrich my personality, and it's also helped me be more aware of who I am and what I can do to become a better individual, both on a personal and professional level. So definitely agree. And speaking of pursuing new environments and new challenges during this COVID pandemic, you got a certification from WBS Training Schulen, Berlin, in Agile project management. Talk to us about that decision and what kind of lessons did you learn from that?
Yeah, in the beginning of the year, the project ended where we actually met at
Mm,
Airbus.
yeah.
So until the beginning of the year, I was working for an HR consultancy, and yeah, as the pandemic began, the project actually ended, and I had some months to reflect myself about
Mm,
the last step in my career, and about the next step in my career.
yeah.
So I was also in that time applying for new jobs, which was yeah, I knew that I could understand why it is in the beginning of a pandemic looking for a job. It's not easy, so yeah, I started to look for other ways to develop into maybe not a new field, but into the field of agile,
Mm,
and yeah, get acquainted a bit more in the ways of agile working. So it was not only that agile project management, but also the Scrum Master
sure.
um, title. So yeah, I think it's very important if you are in a situation where you can develop yourself, to yeah, to think about ways to enrich your development. So I think that was the right situation to do it, and yeah, it was a great experience.
Yeah, yeah. And I think a lot of the times, especially keeping in mind everyone, the fact that Julian had to find new opportunities because of the COVID pandemic, and as rather than sort of mourning over and being sad, obviously I'm sure you were very stressed at the beginning, but you actually took that as an opportunity to pursue different certifications like the one you got from Berlin, and you end up landing a new job at Pfizer, so congratulations. And when it comes to you're now in the HR department within Pfizer, and I kind of want to understand a little bit more about, could you explain the role in which the HR plays in an organization to someone who's completely unfamiliar with this area?
Yeah, sure. I mean, HR is, yeah, like we all learn,
Mm,
one of the main parts of an organization, because HR means human resources. So I think that's already maybe a bit an explanation why I like the field of HR so much, because
mm,
it's my interest my interest in organizations, in development of organizations, but also in working with people.
yep,
And this is a big part. I mean, no organization, no company works without the people who are working in yeah, certain organizational settings,
sure.
in teams. And I think how we learn it in university is maybe more that HR is more an administrative field.
Yep.
So that it does not really have an yeah, strategic impact. That is the classic way. Of course, it is not. That's why I like the field so much, because it the field of HR takes more and more a strategic plays more and more a strategic role, as we have, of course, through yeah, technical developments, artificial intelligence, what is helping in a lot of ways, supporting
Mm,
HR in the administrative field. So this goes hand in hand, the organizational change,
mm,
where people get more and more important, who think in different ways.
yep.
And this is something where the HR field is developing. And yeah, I can only tell people, college students, who are interested into maybe not only finance or business development, who are interested in development of organizations, that there are a lot of interesting roles. And yeah, economic psychology, organization of work, and organizational development are fields that are totally interconnected.
Absolutely. And when it comes to businesses, with obviously technology is developing at a rapid pace with innovation coming alongside that. And I think no matter how quickly and how well the technology develops, in the end, the businesses are going to be run by individuals and people, like you mentioned. And I think these days, even more, the emphasis on the importance of people, the people organizations within corporations is getting more and more significant. And I think high level top management are starting to take these actually more seriously. Traditionally, I think the chief human resource officer wasn't even part of the exec board. And recently, I think I've seen a lot of chief HR officers being part of that strategic decision making of different companies. So yeah, more and more, I think the intersection between the people organization as well as the business's strategy is coming together, and which should be always the case. And working in specifically in HR, Julian, what kind of specific projects have you personally found interesting and exciting that would at the same time excite the college students who are maybe listening right now?
Yeah, probably I can mention almost I could mention almost every project I worked in.
Yeah.
Yeah, it may sound a bit stupid, but I think every project I worked in has an influence, or has had an influence on me developing in a way towards now, where I'm now. And I started in projects, as I already said, in recruiting, so in an agency, headhunting. So that is, for example, also one of the benefits of working in the field of HR, as you have an insight in every in a yeah, in the organizational setting of the company. How is the company working? How are people in the company working? And also the market. For example, in that kind of projects, I did some research about market situations,
Mm,
because companies wanted to staff a certain role, a certain role, for example, in aviation engineering, or maybe in another field,
Sure.
in design, or so you have to be actually someone who has an overview of the market, who has an understanding of how these roles work, and what kind of people work in those roles,
Yep.
and what is important from the side of your company, or your partner company, which kind of profile and person to staff. And the next step is to contact people and talk about them, about open roles, if they would fit. So you are actually on the intersection of your company to the persons who are probably entering your company, or the company you're working for.
Right.
So that is generally interesting in recruiting. Yeah, there was just one project, and I've been working also in the field of employer branding, which is a bit more like recruiting for an agency is a bit more like sales and business development. A role in employer branding for a company is a bit more like marketing in HR. So the field of HR itself is very diverse. Yeah, so you are in touch with people of your company, from marketing, from HR, from other parts of the company, because you want to understand it, and maybe present people from your side of the company to other people.
Right.
So you always have to be aware of that. And the project at Airbus, for example, or where I'm working now in Pfizer, now it's a bit more, even more operational, and a bit more focused on processes. As I'm working in talent acquisition, my partners, or the people I'm working with, are as well recruiters, but also people on the side of operations and process management. So we also oversee a lot of data, recruiting data. We are in touch with the developments in the company, organizational developments. And so just what I want to say is, that the HR field is so diverse, and it's up to your personal profile and interest, where you want to develop in. So yeah.
Sounds good. Yeah, that's very interesting. And I think what Julian mentioned regarding that diversity of his experience working in recruitment agency consultancies, as well as within the actual HR department of a corporate firm like Pfizer right now, there's so many different types of works you can be involved in within HR, I'm sure. And I think that's one of the big misconceptions that people outside world think, that HR is just one type of, screening resumes and that's it, and it's more of an administrative task. But actually there's a lot to do with understanding the market, collaborating with different internal stakeholders as well as external stakeholders. And I think that diversity, from my perspective, is very attractive, and it's a great place for individuals to develop their career within the human resources and people organizations. I think naturally what then the question would come next is, what are the pros and cons, in your opinion, working in HR?
Yeah, you're totally right. What you said, Taka. It's there are not only pros, there are also cons, and definitely in the HR field, it's maybe you think as an HR professional a lot of times. For example, working in HR recruiting field in Airbus, you see you have to work yourself inside the field of aviation engineering. You have to get to know the products, and you probably also develop some kind of interest for the product, or for example, like how the people are really working, really creating this product or the service. So you actually think that you are not really a direct part of it. That's what I like. For example, engineers or people from other business fields can be real experts.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just saying that because you can also be an expert in the field of HR. But yeah, in the end, it's the HR roles are a bit more generalistic
Mm-hmm.
generally. If you want to be a real specialist in the field of finance, you would also find maybe a nice position in the HR field as an HR analytics professional, for example. Now, this is just a newly developing field in the last years that big companies now use. It was also a part of my master's program. It was very interesting because you can also pack everything of HR in numbers and analyze the data. So you can also do that if you're a number person. You can find your role as well there. But yeah, generally, I think HR can be a bit more generalistic, and sometimes I think like, wow, it's great what an engineer does or a designer. So, but yeah, it doesn't have to be negative.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it really comes down to, for those of you listening right now, is what you really want personally and professionally in your professional career, and being able to reflect and think deeply on what you actually want to be doing in the short term as well as the long term will help you quite naturally decide whether you want to be in a more generalist role, for example, in HR, being able to be involved in different kinds of projects and activities, or do you want to be more specialized and tailored, whether that's in engineering or being the numbers person in finance, and so on. So pros and cons always exist, I think, but I think you, Julian, you phrase it in a very neat way for the audience out there. And in the moving forward, I think, in your opinion, what does the future of HR look like from your personal side?
I think that HR will. It already changed in the last years.
Yeah,
I mean, my career is also still young. It's not a long time ago that I was in university. So
absolutely.
of course, obviously, but yeah, I've been working in the HR field already for 5 years. So I think there's already a development towards more strategic HR, and I think 10 years ago it was already the case that the biggest companies, the biggest and complex organizations had already parts of the organization, HR parts of the organization more implemented in their strategic planning, for example. But now the development goes to more and more middle-sized companies and different markets that companies want to be a bit more agile. Maybe want to get rid of their hierarchical structures.
Sure.
A lot of companies are transforming, and yeah, for example, if you're interested also in consulting, this is also HR consulting is also a very much growing field,
Yeah.
where you can have a lot of insights into two sides: the organizational change and the HR change. And a part of this also, of course, what I mentioned before, technology will be supporting the field of HR away from administrative HR focus to a strategic HR focus. That would be two big things. What gonna change HR?
Yeah, I think you mentioned the idea of less administrative tasks going away, more so I think automated probably by technology, and then there's more time now for the HR professionals to focus on the strategic direction of the company and aligning the company strategy with the people side, in terms of talent management. And I think these days, for me, what's personally very interesting is that the HR department is starting to incorporate and implement more analytics, like you mentioned, and understanding customer engagement, not customer engagement, employee engagement, working on initiatives that improve productivity at the workplace, for example, at working from home. How do we do that using the data that they collect from the analytics team, and so on? So I think it's becoming more and more of a role where you need different assets in terms of skill sets, whether that's being financially literate, being strong analytically, but as well as having a strategic, high-level, holistic business mindset as well. So it's a very interesting field personally, and I hope for those listeners who are listening in to also starting to find the change in which HR is evolving, but at the same time, how interesting some of the works and projects are within this field. Now, I think probably the biggest question that the listeners are wanting to hear is, you've probably obviously screened all kinds of CVs, working in a recruitment agency and so on. What are the most important things you look for when you screen CVs? Obviously, it's different case by case, but generally.
Yeah, so it's not a part of my job at the moment, but of course, the last years I've been primarily working in the field of talent management and recruitment. So of course, that's a question that always comes up, and I think the most important thing is for young people from college or universities who want to apply for internships or for junior positions. It's what I get asked a lot of times is how you design a CV. So this is actually not really important how you design it, because the way it's presented in a clear way, in a minimalistic way, that the recruiter can see on the first view. Okay, this is a nice structure, and maybe don't get lost in details about the color or the specific design elements in the CV. This is just if you want to apply in design roles and very creative roles, this makes sense. But most of the time, it's not about that. And be clear about that content. So the first things recruiters check, or maybe in bigger companies, not only recruiters check it, but also software is analyzing your CVs and checks, okay, are there the basic qualifications of the profile that is asked for. So that's the thing I mostly look at the first time, is the profile, like background wise, is it a match? And of course, it's different for intern or junior level positions or senior manager positions. That's always different. So I think the younger the roles are, intern or junior level, the less important are the prior experiences. But having maybe some elements on the academic side when you're interested in a field, and you can show it that you already had heard it in your classes, or maybe had a project about it, and then connect it to your cover letter, that you clearly point out that's the field what I'm interested in because of, and then connect it. But I think generally, like, most important is really to be authentic and not try to pretend to be someone who you not are. That's very important. And in the end, it's not about how you design something, but more the content and how you explain why you are interested in it.
Great. I think lovely advice, Julian. I appreciate it. And I think there's 3 key things I want to point out there and quickly reiterate. Is the first thing being, don't focus too much on the layout. I think the layout, like you said, should be minimalistic design. Simple is what I like to always say, so that the recruiter is able to focus on the content rather than the layout. The second thing is to basically the resume is sort of showing what you've done, the more of the what, and showcasing your skills and ability. The cover letter is where you can, like Julian said, link your skills and experiences to the company's mission as well as the role you're specifically applying to. And that clear distinction needs to be made and needs to be understood by candidates, because I think there's sometimes misconceptions there. And then the last thing is most and probably important is to be your true self. Don't try to be someone that you think the company wants you to be. Rather, be very authentic, and whether the company takes you or not, that's up to them. It's something that you can't control. So focus on showing who you are, why you're passionate about the movement, the activities that the specific company you're applying for is doing, and then the result will, I think, follow through. So fantastic advice, Julian. Thank you so much. And I think to wrap this conversation up, I think looking back, you've been in the industry for not too long, but for some time. If you were to go back and restart your college career, are there any things that you would do differently?
Yeah, that's a tricky question. I think in the end, you should always see yourself at the point where you are,
Yeah,
that you are the person because of your experiences, because of the way. But
absolutely.
of course, if I could go back at some points, I started my career quite late, rather late. I started to study when I was 22.
Mm,
So yeah, and also in that years, in the bachelor, in between bachelor and master, I've always had some kind of gaps where I did an internship, or at some points I was also traveling.
mm,
Um, so I could have done all those years. I mean, in the end, it was I think 6 years from start of bachelor to the end of the master with 2 internships,
mm.
and 2 or 3 longer travels, which is not that bad, I guess. And
Not
I
at all.
think,
Yeah.
yeah, I think I could have done it in a quicker time, but I think that wouldn't have been the right way. So that's maybe also a big advice I would give everyone. Like, if you want to travel, if you want to do something else, do an internship, or do something else in between your bachelor and master, or in your studies, then you should do it, because it's personal development, and personal development is less able if you just focus on your grades and on how quick you get done with the studies. So that's maybe also something when you're studying. Just go out. I mean, in these times it's quite hard. So
Yeah.
I feel very bad for you guys who are still studying. Um, but yeah, the times will change again, and yeah, go out, reach out to other students, go join student clubs, reach out to companies, go networking, and yeah, also don't maybe don't be harsh to yourself all the time. That's maybe the most important thing you should think about, and yeah, then you're on the right way.
Fantastic stuff, Julian. I think a lot of the speakers that I've invited and talked to as well, when I ask the similar sort of questions, when they look back and reflect, they always mention this idea of I put too much pressure on myself, or I was too harsh on myself. I wish I took things a little bit more easily. And I think with the fact that there's a common theme here, I think it really does stand that for those of you, you might not understand it right now, but when you do get to a certain point in the future, you probably will look back. And so just being aware of the fact that people are telling you who have actually gone through your shoes to take it easy sometimes and not put too much pressure on yourself. Don't be too harsh on yourself is, I think, a very good way to end our conversation today. So with that being said, Julian, thanks for your time again. I really do appreciate it. And for those of you listening, if you have any questions or interests in more of Julian's experiences, I'll put his URL for LinkedIn below, if that's okay with you.
It's all right.
And
It's totally all right.
yeah, go reach out to him, start networking, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you. Ciao.
Thanks a lot, Taka. Thanks, guys. All the best.